Hey, Wild Rides 321 back with another video. This video is about the roller coasters at Cedar Point ranked. I put a lot of effort into this video, so I hope you enjoy it. First off, we have Wilderness Run, which is an Intamin's children coaster with a length of 443 feet, a height of 19 feet, a speed of 6 miles per hour. It was the first roller coaster that Intamin built, and it was previously known as Junior Gemini. It was opened in 1979.
I ranked this ride 17th. I didn't personally enjoy it because it was a kiddie coaster, but I enjoyed the scenery around it.
They changed the name to Woodstock Express to be themed better with Wilderness. They named it Wilderness Run, my bad, because it fit better with the Camp Snoopy area. Next, we have Woodstock Express, which is a Vekoma Junior coaster with a length of 1,099 feet and a height of 43 feet. It's 28 miles per hour, and it is built by Vekoma. I like the open feeling of the layout. It opened in 1999 and is still the only Vekoma roller coaster at Cedar Point.
I ranked this ride 16th. Once again, I didn't enjoy the simple layout. However, I enjoyed the open scenery.
This roller coaster is a good coaster in between Wilderness Run and Cedar Creek Mine Ride that kids trying to bridge the gap would really enjoy. One thing that I don't like is that the station is open, which when it rains, it makes it harder to operate. And you can't get a break out of the rain like in other roller coasters. Next up, we have Cedar Creek Mine Ride, which is an aerodynamics mine train with a length of 2,540 feet, a height of 48 feet, and a speed of 42 miles per hour. This is one of the first roller coasters at Cedar Point built by Arrow, and it has 2 chain lift hills and a very long ride. It opened in 1969.
I ranked this ride 15th because it wasn't the most thrilling. I enjoyed the duration length. I would definitely recommend it for all families.
Again, it's a nice bridging coaster in between Woodstock Express and the bigger roller coasters at Cedar Point. Again, this is a hybrid roller coaster, which means it has wooden supports and a metal track, which gives it a very unique feeling, almost like you're on a wooden roller coaster, but smoother. Next up, at 14, we have Corkscrew, a aerodynamic corkscrew with a length of 2,050 feet, a height of 85 feet, and a speed of 48 miles per hour. It has 3 inversions, and it was built by Arrow. It was the first roller coaster with 3 inversions, and it was built in 1976.
I put Corkscrew at 14th because of how rough it was. I enjoyed the ride and all the inversions, just wished it was smoother.
Next, I will take you through the POV of Corkscrew, starting with the lift hill. This is a slower lift hill, as most aerodynamic lift hills were, but luckily, it's not that tall, so it doesn't take that long to get to the top. But, being that, the lift hill is one of the smoothest parts of the ride, so maybe it's a good thing that it's longer. But the rest of the ride is pretty short, so once you disengage from the lift hill, the ride's over before you know it. Here, you start to crest the top of the lift hill, and you go down this 85-foot drop and straight into an airtime hill, and then straight into a vertical loop. That's the first inversion of this. And then you go into another airtime hill, into a turn. And then the turn leads straight into a double corkscrew over the walkways, which is really cool because you can look up at the people and they can look down at you while they're going over, creating a very unique feeling and sensation. Next up at number 13, we have the aerodynamic suspended coaster, Iron Dragon, with a length of 2,800 feet and a height of 76. It has a speed of 40 miles per hour, and it was built by Arrow. It is very scenic with the water and the lake in the motion, and the swinging is very interesting as it was built as it sways even on the brake run, and it was built in 1987.
I ranked Iron Dragon 13th. I enjoyed the swing of the ride, but I really didn't like the pace.
It's a pretty boring ride, so we're not going to go through the whole layout, and it's also pretty long. So, we're going to go to number 12. At number 12, we have Blue Streak, which was built by PTC, has a length of 2,558 feet, has a height of 78 feet, and a speed of 40 miles per hour. This is currently the only wooden roller coaster at Cedar Point.
I ranked Blue Streak 8th. Wooden roller coasters are always fun to me. I also enjoyed how smooth the ride was.
It has a pretty normal wooden roller coaster layout with an out and back layout with airtime hills, and it's pretty normal. Next up, we have Gemini at 11. This is an aero racing coaster with a length of 3,935 feet, a height of 125 feet, a speed of 60 miles per hour, and one of only two wooden roller racing coasters built by Arrow, and it was built in 1978.
I ranked Gemini 9th. This ride was very fun, and I enjoyed it, but it was really rough.
The helix, in my opinion, was the roughest part of the ride, which had some good forces, but it was also very painful in the entrance and exit. At number 10, we have Rougarou, a B&M sit-down with a length of 3,900 feet, a height of 145, and a speed of 60 miles per hour.
I ranked Rougarou at 12. I enjoyed the speed and the layout. I didn't like the roughness, but other than that, it was extremely fun.
Okay, let's go aboard. Here we have the turn, like all normal B&M stand-ups used to have, and then straight down the drop into a vertical loop. That vertical loop has some good forces, and it's pretty smooth. And then into that, we go into a dive loop, then straight into like a helix almost, but it's not a helix. And then we go into another turn, and then into a brake run, and then down the drop and into a corkscrew. That was a little rough. That was a rough part of the ride. And then we just go drop, and it kind of wanders back around until we hit this turn, which is nice, and it gives you like a nice lateral sensation, and then these turns, and then straight into the brake run. Overall, the ride's pretty smooth, other than the last parts, which can get pretty rough and painful. And this could be done because it was one of the earlier B&M wooden roller coasters. Next up, we have Wicked Twister, an intimate impulse coaster with a height of 215 feet and a speed of 72 miles per hour. And it's the only impulse to have a backwards twist on the spike.
I ranked Wicked Twister 6. I liked the pace, and the ride was really fun altogether. Just it was too basic to get higher on the list.
It was built in 2002, and I really don't like the repetitive feeling of it because you just go back and forth. I kind of enjoy the impulse coasters with the holding brake on the rear more than the ones that have a twist. But this one's better than the ones that just have a normal straight back spike, which I think the twist gives a very interesting feel. Next up, we have at 8, we have Top Thrill Dragster, an intimate accelerator coaster with a length of 2,800 feet and a height of 420 feet and a speed of 120 miles per hour. It was the first strata coaster built in 2003.
I ranked Top Thrill Dragster on my number 1 ride. I like everything about this ride. I really enjoyed the launch especially, and the race car theme was a nice touch.
This has a good bit of history behind it because Cedar Point is known for having firsts. This was the first strata coaster and one of only 2 this and Kingda Ka at Six Flags Great Adventure, but a lot of people think, including me, that this is better than Kingda Ka because it's a lot smoother, but Kingda Ka's higher, taller, and has the airtime bump.
I personally enjoy Kingda Ka more because I like that it's faster and the hill at the end.
See, varying opinions, and I also kind of like how the braking starts. Next up, we have Millennium Force at 7, and it was the first Giga Coaster.
I ranked Millennium Force number 2. I like the speed and drops on this ride. I also liked the duration and how long it was.
It also is a very nice long ride, and it has a quick lift hill. Next, at number 6, we have Valraven, a B&M dive coaster with a length of 3,415 feet, a height of 223 feet, and a speed of 75 miles per hour. This was built by B&M, and it was the tallest dive coaster when it was built. It opened in 2016.
I ranked Valraven number 5. I loved the first drop. I enjoyed the feet dangling part as well. I also really liked the restraints because they weren't too tight, but they were loose enough to give you enough air time.
But on my restraint when I rode this, it tightened up a little bit. So, it was kind of tight on when we were sitting on the brake run. Also, it detaches trains very quickly, and that they don't stack up that often, except when you have a slow operator. And I also kind of like watching the screen to see all the green lights light up. We're gonna take a ride on Valraven. So you hang here for a while, and then you go straight into the first 90-degree drop, and then straight into an Immelman. The Immelman is pretty fun, especially entering it. And then after that, you're gonna make this big sweeping turn into the brake run. Mid-course brake run, and then off this mid-course brake run you get another very steep drop, which gives some okay airtime, and then you're gonna go into this dive loop, and then when you exit that dive loop you go into this nice almost heartline roll, and then you turn and you pop up into an airtime hill, and then you make a turn and glide into the brake run. Overall, it's a pretty short ride. Next up, we have Gatekeeper, a B&M wing coaster with a length of 4,164 feet and a height of 170 feet. It was replaced Disaster Transport and Space Spiral, and it was built in 2013.
I ranked Gatekeeper 7th. I liked the ring portion and the ride altogether was fun, but I didn't enjoy the station and the brake run for the reason that it was very rough and it stopped suddenly.
I also really like the color scheme on this roller coaster, the white and the blue and the thing in the background. Now we're gonna go take a ride on Gatekeeper. First, at the top, it doesn't have a normal drop. You enter into a dive drop, which flips you up and then down into the thing. And then you're going to enter an Immelman, which is very interesting because you take it at such a fast speed. And then you pop up into a Camelback, which doesn't give you that much airtime. I kind of don't get why it's there. But then you go into this big corkscrew. And then you go into the signature element, the inline twist heartline roll through the tower. And then you're going to make a dive drop. And you're gonna come back in, and you're gonna make another nice inversion by the tower, and then you're gonna pop up into the mid-course brake run. Then you're gonna go into this helix at the end, and you are nearing the end. It's a pretty good helix. It's pretty forceful, but then you pop up, and then you go into the brake run. Next, we have Magnum XL 200, which is an aero hypercoaster with a length of 5,106 feet, a height of 205 feet, a speed of 72 miles per hour, and it was the first hypercoaster when it opened, and it was built in 1989.
I ranked this ride 11th. I enjoyed the ride, but I didn't like the tunnel with the lights because it gave me a bad headache.
This ride is known to be jerky at some points, but I had a very enjoyable ride on it, and I didn't find it jerky at all, which I guess I'm kind of lucky.
I personally thought it was jokey, but I don't know.
This could be because they didn't have the technology to make it before, and they made it on site. At number 3, we have Raptor, a B&M invert, which was built pretty early. It was built in 1994, and it has a length of 3,790 feet and a height of 137 feet. With a speed of 57 miles per hour, it's pretty fast. And it was the first B&M at Cedar Point, I believe.
I ranked Raptor 10th because of how rough it was. It was a fun ride, but the roughness was just so painful that it was not worth it.
I didn't find it that rough, but the brake run stops you pretty fast.
It did.
And this was the first roller coaster that we rode that day. And we're going to take a ride. First, you go into this nice sweeping drop, which gives some pretty good forces. And then you go straight into this nice vertical loop. And then you go into an inline twist. And then straight into a cobra roll. Then you go into this very tight helix, and that helix has a lot of force behind it, and the ride slows down a lot during the brake run. And then you go into this nice drop, and then into this corkscrew almost, and then to a nice turn, then into another like inline twist, and then you make this nice helix, and then you go into this nice turn right into the brake run. Next, we have Maverick, Intamin Blitz coaster with a drop of 95 degrees. We're going to take a ride on Maverick. Here you go down this 100-foot 95-degree drop and straight into a turn. This ride is very whippy, like that, and the S-turns are very whippy and has strong forces, and then into a nice airtime hill, and then you make a nice turn into a horseshoe roll. That's what I call it. Some people call it, I guess, strangle dive. But then you go into a nice tunnel, which brings you to a stop. This tunnel surprises a lot of people because they're not expecting it, but it's very powerful launch out of the tunnel, and then you make a sharp left-hand turn out of the tunnel, and then up over the lake, and you make a turn, and then you go into this real quick snap in there, and then another S-curve, which gives you a lot of force, and then into that, like cutback almost, and then an airtime hill, and then a nice turn, and then as you glide into the brake run. Next, we have Steel Vengeance, a RMC I-box with a length of 5,740 feet, a height of 205 feet, a speed of 74 miles per hour, and it used to be Mean Streak, my bad, and it opened in 2018.
I ranked Steel Vengeance number 3. I enjoyed the wood and steel combination. The hotline rolls were very enjoyable for me. I also enjoyed the theming of the queue and the bags under the seat for your items.
This is a very fast-paced ride, and it's constantly ranked as some of the top roller coasters in the world. Let's take a ride. So you enter into this very steep first drop, and then into a very quick airtime hill, and then straight into a bigger airtime hill, which has a nice turn to it. And then here you go into this like outer banked airtime hill, and it gives you a very interesting feeling. And then you go into the first heartline roll, and then you kind of make a nice wave turn, and then you're in the structure, which I like, as you're making another inversion. But here, this is where you go into the brake run, which doesn't slow you down a lot at all. and then this goes into the structure some more, and then you're running back towards the lift hill as you make a turn, and you're in the structure now. This is kind of around the station, and you make a nice, like almost inversion there, and then you keep popping, and then you go into the structure again for another inversion, and then straight into like a wave turn. Then you have some very strong pops of airtime coming back to the station, which was one of my favorite parts of the ride, which then you glide straight into the brake run. Thank you for watching this video. Again, I put a lot of hard work into it, and please like and subscribe if you feel like doing so. And what's your favorite roller coaster?